All right. Hey there, and welcome to the channel. Today we are joined by Gavin Stone again. He's been here before. What I like to do on this channel is to bring experts and to do a little exploration of human behavior, uh, true crime. Never know what we're going to come across. And today we're covering Sam Bankman-Fried. And Sam Fried is in a bit of hot water, if you will. He has managed to somehow lose billions and billions and billions of dollars in a short period. So he has gone from being the darling of, I'll say, the Democratic Party, donating more money than anyone on the planet save George Soros, to, well, I don't even know if it's bankruptcy. How are you doing today, Gavin?
I'm good, thank you. I'm loving that introduction.
Well, I wanted to have you take a look at this video because you do body language, statement analysis, etc. And a lot of people invested in him, and he's getting kind of an imagery building right now. And I saw on Twitter, for example, that Kevin Leary, famously of Shark Tank, is saying, you know what? I think I believe him. So I want to put this to the test. Okay. Gavin, we're going to look at a little bit of video with him being confronted about a couple questions. Mm-hmm. And I just want to see if he strikes you as believable.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and take a peek here. This is him at a conference put forth by, I believe, the New York Times, being directly questioned on some of his points. And you could tell he's maybe a little bit uncomfortable there at the moment.
Just a little bit.
So here we go.
Sam, help me with this. On November 7th, you tweeted and then deleted a tweet that said, quote, FTX has enough to cover all client holdings. We don't invest client assets, even treasuries. Yep. We've been processing all withdrawals and will continue to be, unquote. You then deleted that tweet. And literally just moments ago, you told me it was on November 7th that things took a turn.
Yep.
You're telling the truth?
So.
All right. Was there anything in there in that just that while it's being read to him? Which, by the way, kudos to them, because often when trying to view these things, you have a situation where you'll hear a question being asked, or you'll watch the person asking the question, but you don't get to see the person who's being asked the question, which is very, very frustrating. But here you actually got to see the question being asked, but look at him reacting in the time as being questioned.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I hate it when the camera pans from one to the other or switches between one and the other and you can't see the actual points where they're asking the questions. This was brilliant because from the moment he started asking the question, you could see his mouth getting dry straight away. He takes a sip of his drink. There's little bits that are going on with you watching his entire body language and seeing him getting more and more uncomfortable, more and more closed in. You can see his palms are getting sweaty and he's trying to put them on his leg. You can't see his hands, but you know what he's doing. And he's kind of getting more closed in as he gets to the point of answering the question. And then the beauty of this is you've paused it at the perfect time, because with a question like that, and when somebody finishes with, are you telling the truth? There's one word you want to be listening for, and that's yes. Simple as that. Yes or no. It's a yes or no question. So you can expand on that, but if you're not hearing the word yes, something's very, very wrong. I know that certain people have habits of starting answering the questions with the words well and with the words so. If that's in their baseline and they normally do it, then you can write it off. But if it's not in somebody's baseline and they start answering a question with the words so, you know that chances are they're trying to hide something or mix something up in there, and that's exactly what he started off answering with as soon as you paused it there. So I will say, however, fair play to him for sticking himself in the firing line. I wanted to point out that whether you like this guy, whether you don't, whatever your beliefs are, he's put himself out there, and the hardest part for me is obviously he's in a very nerve-wracking position. He doesn't know what's going to be asked. So the hardest part for me is distinguishing between nerves and deception. So, but I did watch this at the beginning as well. So he's had plenty of time to settle in and get used to things and get into a routine and get comfortable with the entire situation, or at least get used to it. So maybe a little bit of both. But so far, from what I've seen, he's definitely kind of squirming on the spot.
All right. And the so is typically used, again, as a filler to buy some time. Like another good one would be, can you repeat the question? Or so, and then repeating the question back to the person. And then while it's going, scramble, 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 what am I going to come up with? What am I going to come up with?
Exactly. Well, thoughts are inherently faster than words at any point, and of course, while you've bought yourself those extra 3 or 4 seconds, it's given you a hell of a lot of time to think and to come up with it, even just the start of an answer, even if it's not the full answer. So the bottom line is, you should be saying yes or no. I mean, if I say to you, Eric, were you on Mars yesterday?
First, are you high? No. In that case, it might be like that one. I would probably ask you again.
Yeah, true. To be
was
fair,
I on Mars yesterday?
Yeah. If I confuse you, okay. Then were you in France yesterday?
No.
And it's as simple as that. That's all you need to know. I only asked Mars because I didn't know you might have been in France, as far as I know. Probably highly unlikely. I knew you were definitely not on Mars.
Sometimes I could be on Mars. People might think I'm on Mars. My opinions could be from Mars.
That is true. Which way around is it with the women are from Venus?
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And I don't know the order they put it, but
things were changing fast. And, when you look at November 6th, I was feeling nervous, but I felt like things were probably going to end up okay. We still had, assets way larger than liabilities, and there's increasing withdrawal demand, but we were meeting all of it. We were processing all of it, although it was a weekend, so we were a day delayed on a lot of wire transfers and stablecoin creations, and Bitcoin node was overloaded, but their assets were continuing to process. By November 8th, I did not think the odds were that high that we were going to be able to meet all client demand. And I was worried that there was going to be a substantial liquidity shortfall.
This feels to me like word salad.
Yeah. So what you've got going on, I've done it myself there. I've now gone so what you've got going on here is a couple of things. He's kind of evaded the question, and he's trying to think of something to kind of convince more so than convey, which is, I love Lena Sisko's use of that terminology. Liars convince, truth tellers convey, and that's because the truth tellers don't need to convince you because they've got the truth on their side. Whereas obviously liars, they do have to convince you because they haven't. So in this instance, what he's trying to do is convince you of a story and say, this was happening, that was happening. And if you noticed at first, he's got a lot of nervous energy. And again, I know you can't see his leg, but you can see his arm resting on his leg, and you can see it bouncing up and down like that. You can see this bounce going on. His leg is going like restless leg syndrome, because he's got all that nervous energy caused from the adrenaline dump because of what's happening and what's going on around him. So that's where that energy is getting used up. I think he possibly becomes aware of it and moves his hand off his leg. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure. But what I do notice, as he's gone into his kind of speech, like the word salad that you said, all of a sudden it's come to him that he's got facts and figures and things he can say, and that there is a bit of a saying here in England: if you can't blind them with science, baffle them with BS.
Bullshit.
Yeah, I didn't know whether you could say it on this channel or not. And this seems to be what he's doing here. So it's kind of, he knows he hasn't got the truth on his side, so he's using all these facts and figures. And again, you'll notice when he started to get into the swing of it, he's becoming a bit more animated. His hands are out here, and he's making gestures, and he's a lot more open with what he's talking about, because he's a lot more confident in what he's saying, because a lot of the things he's talking about are things he's familiar with. But then when it comes back to been more direct about answering the question. He's very much like this and very closed off again and very shrunken and very still movement, not much motion there and not very open.
I think another word for the word salad, as I called it, is chaff and redirect, according to Greg Hartley and Scott Rouse.
Yeah, verbal vomit, verbal spew, chaff and redirect. There's loads of different slang terms for it. You can take your pick. I think I think it was Mark Bowden that came up with the term word salad, wasn't it? It might have been.
Word salad's an old term. I don't know. It could be used as application, but word salad is just out there. Like any politician that blathers or whatever. It's like he's just sounding smart. The guy probably is a talented programmer, and he goes into full nerd to confuse people. Like I'm just sitting there listening to it and getting lost in the rhythm of what he's saying. And the funds were here, and that's a deliberate thing, because I've done like a geek talk or nerd talk or whatever programming, and you can do that. You can just go deep into the technical and realize you're actually not saying anything. You're just laying out a whole bunch of technical terms that people are afraid to confront you and ask you a direct question, because then they'll be perceived as dumb. So it is a powerful method to escape from scrutiny, if you will.
Oh, definitely it works. It's fantastic. And again, with that, you'll notice when he started, he was very clunky with his speech, with a lot of ums, a lot of a lot of well, I. And then eventually when he got into the swing of it, like you say, when he got into the technical terminology that he was using, his speech sped up. He was talking a lot faster. There was a lot more. It was just a lot more rhythmic in general. He knew what he was on about and was confident in what he was saying. But the clunky speech stopped once he got himself on track, as it were.
Yeah, perfect.
Process. By November 8th, I did not think the odds were that high that we were going to be able to meet all client demand. And I was worried that there was going to be a substantial liquidity shortfall. November 7th, that was sort of the transition day. And even just the start versus the end of November 7th, I felt fairly different.
A lot of distancing language too, right? Like somebody, instead of saying, "No, I did not kill the child. I would never hurt the child." He's saying, "I didn't feel confident," or that instead of saying, "Our ass was in the sling. We were out of money." He's like, "We didn't feel as confident," and things like that. Do you feel the same? That little statement analysis in there?
Yeah, so this is what I'd kind of refer to as the customer service speech. This is where your customer service representative is going to say something like, "I'm not confident I can make that happen on time." Instead of turning around and saying, "No way is that going to happen. We are so deep in the stuff that it is not going to happen. Sorry about that." So what they do is they give this kind of smoothed off version, and this is what he's doing here. He's not turning around and saying, "I came in, I had a look at the figures and went, whoa, we are deep in it. I'm going to need a snorkel." He's kind of basically turned around and said, yeah, I wasn't feeling confident, blah, blah, blah. And again, if you notice this entire time, I should have pointed it out last time, from the minute he was asked, "Were you telling the truth?" The whole of the way through, he's there going, "Well, I didn't feel confident that I've exaggerated a little bit when I'm doing it," but he's shaking his head from side to side, and you don't need to be a genius to figure out what that means. So,
and I can't remember exactly what I was thinking or when I sent that, but I remember trying to think about feeling conflicted about what to say and trying to think about what I could say that I believed. And by not that long later, I no longer believed that. That no longer felt like it had much, like that was a at all reasonable representation of where my mind was at. And I don't remember exactly.
The word is lie. It was a lie. It was a lie.
Let me ask a different question, because this is all at the same time. The New York Times reported.
There you go. Have you ever seen an infant in caught in the act of something? And you go to them, "What were you doing with your hand in the cookie jar?" And they go, I did. There was a cook. There was a jar, and that was
in the kitchen. We're in the kitchen and in the house, and then food. Starving.
Yeah.
The time with my brother. Oh, did I tell you my brother went over here?
Exactly, and this is pretty much what he's doing there. One of the things I also noticed as well, a couple of times he said I was trying to think about how I felt about that. I never in my life have I needed to try to think about how I felt about that, and then to try to think about something else, which you followed up straight with again. I tried to think about, and I don't need to try to think; it kind of happens naturally from the minute I open my eyes. And I certainly don't need to try to think how I feel about something. You know, it's something that, you know, if you ask me, I don't know, how do I feel about crime? I can say, well, I feel it's wrong. You know, just simple as that.
It's funny that trying to think about how I felt about that is writing your testimony in the future.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're trying to think of the story of how I felt about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus, because sometimes you do go, how do I feel about that? And that's legitimate because, you know, it's like something just happened and you're like, that was odd. Am I sad or angry? I don't. So you can't think of it, but trying to think about, yeah, exactly. It's like,
especially when it's something that's in the past tense. You know, you can turn around and you can say something like, you know, there was loads of money lost, and I felt, you know, disappointed, panicked, afraid, whatever emotion you want to put in there, fill in the gap. But you can't turn around and say, you know, I spotted this had happened and tried to think how I felt about it.
Right.
You know,
or on that note. To go one back at you with Mark Bowden, you might have been around when he was doing a commercial for a little known company called Nike, when he came running through the stadium as a streaker. If you were to be sitting there and a streaker suddenly ran by you, naked with their bits flopping in the wind, that is a perfect example of, I'm not sure what I think about that. You know, there'd be a pause. It's like, is it a surprise? Is it a laugh? Are you embarrassed for yourself, for them?
That's it. You'd be like, well, what's going on? Yeah, you might take a moment to pause. But yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, with his speech there's a lot of things going on all over the place. There's a lot of lip compression and licking of the lips as he's talking, probably got a little bit of a dry mouth. Again, a lot of this could be put down to nerves because of what he's doing and the questions he's answering and the pressure he's under. But at the same time, there are too many clusters, not enough consistencies, and definitely not enough in the way of straight answers. So, you know, so far the guy's got more red flags than a Russian airport. And I would be a little bit concerned about whether he's being entirely honest.
All right.
No longer felt like it had much, like that was a at all reasonable representation of where my mind was at. And I don't remember exactly when I deleted it, but I remember at some point it's like, it shouldn't be there.
Let me ask you a different question, because this is all around the same time. The New York Times reported that $515 million was suspiciously, in quote, transferred.
Ooh, that's a very big smile for a thing that happened that was quite disastrous.
Yes, and let me leave that up there for a minute. This is the showcase smile, folks. This is the Jack Nicholson in The Shining look. Technically, I'm going to say there could be a skosh of duper's delight in that smile. What do you think, Gavin?
I'm not saying that there was criminal intent for definite, but to be fair, a little bit of white face paint, red lipstick, and green hair dye, and he would probably be somewhere on the lines of like the Batman villain vibe going on there. I've been kind of looking at this, replaying it several times, and thinking, could this be put down to a nervous smile? And the answer every time that I come back to is no. There's too much going on there for that to be a nervous smile. A nervous smile, it would be a lot more fleeting. And I know a duper's delight smile is fleeting, but a nervous smile would also show that the nerves on his face, not delight. So a nervous smile is very much like, You know, you can see that somebody's still nervous when their mouth twitches. That there, he looks like he's just been told he's won the tri-state lottery.
Yeah, this smile right here is what brought this whole thing about. People sent this to me and said, you got to look at this. You got to look at this guy. And I shared it immediately with you, Gavin, but that's the shining moment, what started the whole thing. And what I love too is he's doing that little peak thing.
Yeah.
When his head's down, it's kind of like a little like the kid you're talking about.
Yep. Did you steal the cookies?
But yeah, he can't help himself on that. Oh, there we go. So we'll get that moment live again.
In quote, transferred from FTX wallets after the bankruptcy filing. And there have been accusations that this is the assistance effectively of theft. Where did that money go?
And again, like a child home. Oops.
Yeah.
Even that, the word theft, that was the little micro expression on the, on that.
The whole time he's kind of looking down. He looks up at the smile with the missing 515 million. Sorry, was it 515 billion? Wasn't it? Not 515 million.
No. It wasn't that many billion, but it was. It was dozens of billions.
Yeah,
it's so much. It's staggering money. More money than you and I will ever see or consider.
Yeah. It's a lot of money to lose, and it's not like you lost it down the back of the couch. We're not talking small numbers here. You know, he's not left it in the center console of his car. This has been deliberately moved from a place to another place. You know, and somebody knows about it. And if it's his company, well, he bloody well shouldn't, shouldn't he? You know, I get people make mistakes, but that's a pretty big mistake. So. But yeah, you're right with it. I mean, if you look at the body language again, there he's very closed off. He's very looking down. He's very kind of guarded, shall we say, and not showing any signs of being open or willing to wanting to share his actual thoughts at this point.
Yep.
Island. Yes. And there have been accusations that this is the assistance effectively of theft. Where did that money go?
So, I will caveat this by saying at that point, I was being cut off from systems. And so I'll give you the answer to the extent that I know it, which is that I believe that a few different things happened within a short period there. I think that the US team took actions to seize some of the assets and put it in custody.
All right, we're back to the word salad again.
Yeah.
And distancing language all at once.
Yeah, so we got that clunky speech again from the beginning. We got the very much distancing language. I mean, everything from the start of when he started talking. Again, there's that word "so" from the very beginning, rather than him coming in and going straight for an explanation. He's gone "so." I will caveat that with. And again, this is unless there is a really kind of complicated compound question that you have to answer, there's no need to caveat something. You know, it's a reasonably simple question. Where did the money go? He shouldn't need to caveat. He should be able to say, you know, this is where it went. You know, if he doesn't know, he should be able to say, I don't actually know. You know, and he'd give his reason why. But he shouldn't need to put a caveat in before he's even started talking at this point. So that's one thing. Again, you will notice that he does this hand clasp thing again, and he's kind of putting his hands between his legs. Very small movements, very frozen movements. He's not back to his animated, confident self again. So again, he's kind of thinking very carefully while he's buying himself those seconds with that clunky speech. And yet again, no direct answer.
All right. Well, that's perfect. I want to put it out to all of you. What do you think? Do you believe him? Are you like Kevin Leary and you believe the kid, quote unquote? Or are you like Gavin and me and I wouldn't give this guy money to go buy me a burger from the store? Please let us know down below and we'll see you in the next video.